And a good Wednesday morning to you, Central Georgia. Thanks for tuning in here at 10:30 on 13 WMAZ Plus for a look at your extended forecast. The main headlines we're going to be talking about is, of course, return of the rain. We are back in an unsettled pattern of weather after about 4 days of some sunshine. We would have liked a whole lot more. However, we'll take what Mother Nature gives us, and she's definitely giving us plenty of hydration for the backyard garden. So rain chances every day, and that, of course, does continue as we go into next week. It's just going to be talking about a whole lot of rain for the next 7 days, and we'll break down some of the rain chances, why some days are a little bit greater, some days are a little bit less, and do we have the potential for any storms each day or anything in the way of severe weather. So here is the current image across all 4 of our sky cams here at 10:30 this morning. We have some dark clouds, we have some sprinkle showers. It's kind of hard to see, but there is a little bit of some rain droplets lingering on the sky cam lens right there at the Georgia National Fairgrounds. Everything we've seen in the way of rain so far has predominantly been of the lighter rain nature, at least where the sky cams are located. We do have some steadier and some heavier rain showers that are located in some areas across central Georgia. But don't be discouraged if you haven't seen it so far. You are looking to have plenty of scattered rain throughout the rest of today that lingers into tomorrow. A little bit of a break before we head into the weekend, but then we'll pick up where we left off. So now let's go over to our current temperatures. Mid to upper 70s right now. It doesn't quite look like anyone's made it to the 80-degree mark. And I think most areas are probably going to try to hover somewhere in the upper end of the 70s today. But I can see some areas popping up some 80s, maybe even getting into the low 80s. You get some peaks of sunshine for a good extended time. You may even crawl into the upper 80s. So it's all going to depend on the cloud cover and if you have any rain present. But right now, 75 up in Monticello, Forsyth, down to Roberta, along with downtown Macon. 77 is probably the most popular number on this map right now. Warner Robins, Unadilla, down to Rochelle, and up to Gordon, Milledgeville, Eatonton, and Sparta. Over towards the east, some of these areas that have seen some rain so far may be hovering a little bit cooler. Eastman, 72 degrees. Remember that number and pair it up with our current satellite and radar image that I'll show you in just a second. That is definitely an area that is seeing some rain-cooled air. The dew points, we have continued to see that muggy air, that dark green color build in steadily over the course of this morning. We actually had predominantly light green on this dew point temperatures map as of about 5 a.m. this morning, but now we're seeing that surge in moisture from the southeast all the way up to the northwest, so kind of a direct path if you were hopping on I-75 right here outside of Treutlen and Montgomery counties, all the way up I-16, I-75 as you're going north towards the metro Atlanta area. That dark green color is indicating some pretty muggy air. Dew point temperatures in the 70s, maybe the low 70s, somewhere in the mid 70s along the southern extent of I-75 down in Unadilla and Cordele. So we have some pretty muggy air that's going to translate to some rain chances all throughout the rest of today. Thankfully, the feels like numbers are pretty accurate of what the actual temperatures do read. Even with the dew point temperatures being somewhere in the 70s, that typically makes these numbers feel a couple degrees warmer in nature, but we're not talking about that right now because of the cloud cover and because of the rain. Once you start to get into the 80s, that's when we start to see some of those feels like temperatures that hover a little bit warmer. I think Vidalia was at 79 degrees, feeling like 82 degrees, so it has a muggy feel in the air outside. Winds and wind gusts, we will continue to see these maybe in some localized areas get some gusts up to 20 to 25 miles per hour, but some shades of yellow on this, and everyone else is left in that blue color, which is still a little bit of a steady breeze. We're not seeing any wind gusts reported as of right now, so it does look like most of the winds are pretty steady. We don't have those occasional gusts that do blow a little bit higher in terms of those numbers. 12 mile per hour breeze in Cochran, 6 mile per hour in Eastman, 7 miles per hour, 9 miles per hour in Warner Robins and Macon, respectively. So anywhere from about a 5 to 10, maybe a little bit over 10 miles per hour. That's where the breeze does currently stand. Here's a look at that satellite and radar picture I was just referring to. Remember Eastman, 72 degrees, one of the cooler temperatures that we've seen so far on our temperature map, and that's because this big cluster of showers did just roll through Dodge County. It's still mainly in the northern half of Dodge County, but that's probably the most coverage of rain we see from any of these clusters or organized segments of some rain so far. We'll break it down piece by piece. I'll zoom in on the satellite and radar so you can get kind of a localized view of what's going on. And I'm going to pause it so all of these don't start to move on me and I kind of forget where they were. So we have a couple of pockets of very isolated, steady, and maybe even a little bit heavy rain showers up in Jasper, Putnam. That's going to be southeast of Monticello, southwest of Eatonton, and still kind of scattered about the counties up there in our northernmost row of counties, I guess I should say. And then over to the west of us, just to the northwest of Thomaston and Upson County, we see some more scattered showers. Not much rain to be found on the northern edge. There is a couple of showers just to the northeast of Lake Oconee around Greensboro, the I-20 corridor just north here of central Georgia, and then another cluster of light showers around the McDonough area in Henry County. We'll take it down to our centralmost area, and that's where we start to get a good picture more so of better coverage of rain. We see scattered showers stretching across Crawford, Peach, northern Houston County, areas of Macon County, and that does continue all the way up to areas like Twiggs County, right where our radar is here in Jeffersonville, across Wilkinson County. But the main cluster of showers right now is going to be present from Bleckley County, more so the southern extent of Lawrence County, all the way down to northern Dodge County. That's where most of the rain is continuing to fall, but pretty heavy pocket of some rain right around the Cadwell area south of I-16 in Lawrence County. This stretches over towards the west, areas like Pulaski County, northern Wilcox County, another good pocket of some heavy rain right there on the corner of Pulaski, Wilcox, and Dooley counties, and some scattered pockets of maybe some steady rain around Vienna, along the I-75 corridor in Crisp County and Dooley County. But not to leave a couple of you guys out, south and southeastern corner here in central Georgia, these areas were the first to receive this big cluster of rain that's now in Dodge, Bleckley, and Lawrence County. Well, now it just looks like scattered light showers, and still those overcast skies are going to continue virtually all day long. But there's more where that came from. I said that a lot this morning, and we're just going to continue to see round after round of steady showers, maybe even a low-end thunderstorm. Let's take a look actually to this cluster down to the south and the southeast. Doesn't look like we see anything in the way of lightning strikes so far. That's what we're going to see maybe a little bit throughout this afternoon once we get some of those temperatures a little bit warmer. But if they stay present in the 70s, it could just be some pockets of heavy rain and maybe an isolated rumble of thunder or two. We're not forecasting anything in the way of severe weather today. It's just really going to be a messy and a dreary day on our satellite and radar picture. But let's zoom out, take a look at the state of Georgia as a whole, and it is a lot messier towards the Atlantic coast. So this is going to be closer to where the center of low pressure that is causing all of this messy weather is going to be located. Right now it's still down to the south and the southeast of us, somewhere on the eastern edge of the peninsula of Florida, and that will continue to slide up the Atlantic coast. And by doing that, it's going to send us a surge of more humid air, and that's going to be kind of correlating with the cloud cover and the rain chances that we do have over the next couple of days. But keep that in mind. This system is ushering in some warmer and some muggy air, and that is actually looking to stay present for the foreseeable future. So we'll take it to the surface map now. It's just that same look that you did just have without the loop right there, and just showing you some of the features that have established themselves. This low pressure center is somewhere in the northeastern corner of Florida, maybe right there around the Daytona Beach area. There's a little bit of a front moving off the eastern edge of this low pressure center. That's not going to have any implications for our forecast. We're really close to the center, and the centers of these low pressure do have a lot of moisture associated with them, like we were talking about. So you will get your fair share of somewhat organized showers and storms that will continue to ride up the Atlantic coast. So we're looking to have some pretty humid air, some scattered showers for at least today and parts of tomorrow. By the time we get to the second half of Thursday, we'll look at this to eventually move out of the picture a little bit too far away to send us anything in the way of rain, and hopefully a brief break in the rain. I'll show you what the latest timing on future view is in just one second, but we'll still talk about this front. I was referring to it yesterday, and it was definitely a lot farther up to the north and the northwest. But keep in mind where this is going to be a driver of some severe weather in these portions of the country, the southern plains, the Missouri Valley, the Mississippi River Basin. That's going to continue to make its push closer to central Georgia. It's going to take a while for it to get here, however. So there's a lot of lift ahead of that frontal boundary. That's one of the key ingredients that you will need for some severe weather. So let's take a look at the numbers. 87 yesterday for a high temperature, about 2 degrees below average. But it definitely did feel a little bit warmer with some of the humidity in the forecast. 103 was the record. I think that's 2 days in a row that the record has been 103 all time. This one back in 2011, so just about 14 years ago. It's 2025 now. I'm getting my years mixed up already. But 48 degrees was the record low back in 1956. We fell about 10 degrees above that at 58 degrees. So still a below average morning. Definitely maybe classifying as a tad bit cool for the month of June. Not really used to seeing temperatures down into the 50s whatsoever, and they will become less and less likely as we continue into July and August before we finally start to transition a little bit into fall once we get into maybe the tail end of September. We still have some pretty hot days in October, as you know, if you're a frequent visitor of the Georgia National Fairgrounds for the Georgia National Fair. Didn't receive anything in the way of rain yesterday up here in Macon. I think that's about the 4th day in a row that we have received no precipitation. So our year departure, where we should be this time of year in terms of those rainfall totals, falling just above a ½ inch above average. So about 0.6 of an inch, 0.63 inches above where we should be this time of year. So we have a little bit of a cushion until we start to flip that positive sign to a negative sign. However, it doesn't look like we'll get into negative territory because some rain's probably already been recorded at Middle Georgia Regional Airport and will continue to get recorded throughout the rest of today. Sunrise 6:27 yesterday, and then 8:39 was the sunset yesterday. That sunset will try to push close to the 9 o'clock hour. Don't quite think it makes it there. We have roughly about 15 more days until that longest day of the year, the first day of summer on June 20th. So I don't think the sunrise will start poking its head out before the 6 a.m. hour either. So if you're an early riser, I think you don't really have much to worry about. It's going to virtually feel the same. Sunrise will still get a little bit earlier, and sunset will still get a little bit later, but we're only talking about maybe 10 more minutes each way. So maybe sunrise somewhere around 6:15 in the morning, sunset going to be closer to about 8:50, not quite making it to that 6 a.m. hour or that 9 p.m. hour as we make our way towards the official start of the season of summer, although it's already kind of starting to feel like that, especially with showers and storm chances each day. So that's your forecast for your Wednesday. Scattered rain, but going to be widely scattered. So it's going to have pretty good coverage. Most areas should see rain as opposed to most areas not receiving rain. And in fact, I do believe that most areas probably will see some rain. If you don't receive any rain, give me a call. I'll be very shocked to see which areas did not get any rain throughout the course of today. An easterly breeze, 5 to 10 miles per hour, and an occasional gust can get up to about 20 to 25 miles per hour. We're on the northern side of that center of low pressure. So if my left hand right here is that exact center of low pressure, you're going to have counterclockwise rotation around that center of low pressure. So if we're on the north side of it, that's where we're going to start to see these winds have more of an easterly direction. And once you get closer to the center of it, the winds can get a little bit gustier in nature. Sunrise this morning was at 6:27, so we didn't see any change with the sunrise from yesterday into today. But worth noting that today is the first day that our average high temperature is 90 degrees, so that's going to become more of the normal when we start talking about those extended temperature outlooks and what probability chance we have of being below average. Well, below average is going to be into the 80s, and it can't even be the upper 80s, which virtually don't feel too much different from 90 degrees. But the average high temperature will continue to tick up probably all the way until we get sometime into late July, early August. And that's typically that really warmest spell that we do have. I know that first week of August is normally brutally hot here in central Georgia. Even years back, I can remember some feels like numbers that were upwards to about 115, maybe 118 degrees. Keeping my fingers crossed we don't have anything to deal with that, but we have a ways to go. We haven't even kicked off the official start of summer so far. So I was showing this yesterday, our tropics outlook, because we did have a highlighted area of interest off the Atlantic coast, which is going to be the center of low pressure impacting us in the way of showers and storms throughout today. Well, as of the 8 a.m. outlook from the National Hurricane Center, you do see zero chance of development over the next 2 days and over the next week. That means this doesn't really have a chance at getting any tropical characteristics per se anymore. So this isn't going to organize into something that the National Hurricane Center would give a storm name to, the first of which would be Andrea here for the 2025 hurricane season. But this is still going to organize, and it's going to move its way up the Atlantic coast, where it does continue to organize maybe a little bit off the Atlantic coast over the ocean, or it may be a little bit farther inland into areas like coastal South Carolina and such, as it does continue to ride up the Atlantic coast. And then by the time it kind of gets to North Carolina, it's expected to push off eastward into the Atlantic Ocean. So not going to have to worry about a very, very early named storm this hurricane season, and no other areas of interest that have been outlined thus far. But we'll continue to keep a close eye on this outlook. Obviously, if there is anything in the way of a named storm and potential cone forecast, anything that could be impacting us in central Georgia. But our long-range models do a pretty good job of at least giving us a general idea of something is going to form if it's going to impact us here. But not our long-range models. Let's take it over to our short-range models. Let's take it over to Future View. What does it have to say about this afternoon into the evening? Still seeing very scattered rain, but some pockets that do have a little bit better coverage, some pockets of red, some pockets of those dark reds. So that can indicate some of your thunderstorms per se. Like I said, we're not forecasting anything in the way of severe weather. Can't rule it out this time of year, even if you're not in any form of a severe weather outlook. But it does look like with the cloud cover kind of keeping our temperatures at bay, it is just going to kind of be your run-of-the-mill thunderstorms if you typically see any of those. But some areas could just be dealing with some on-again and off-again light showers and sprinkles in nature, because there's plenty of these green colors that are mixed in with the scattered nature of this rain. This rain is going to continue for most of the afternoon. Once we start to transition into the evening hours, right around 5 o'clock, it begins to try to taper off. It looks like most of the rain does kind of move out of central Georgia, but we still are going to see scattered showers continue to be possible into the nighttime hours, into the overnight hours. But anything that does come to fruition or start to organize and pop up in nature during that time period, more than likely just going to be a light shower at most. It's not going to have any daytime heating to work with whatsoever, and our temperatures are going to begin their cool down into the nighttime hours. Let's go all the way into 8 a.m. on your Thursday morning. Predominantly dry, but still the chance for seeing some scattered showers. They're very close to us right here, not necessarily in central Georgia according to this model run, but that's going to continue to fluctuate. When it's very scattered rain chance, Future View, not typically the best at resolving the exact location of where it's going to rain at that specific time. So don't get locked into this and say, oh, we could see a light shower clip us in Telfair County or Montgomery County, or if you're up here in Bibb County, downtown Macon, there's nothing in the way of rain on this Future View model run. Doesn't mean that it can't happen. The potential is still going to be there into the early morning hours. But we do pick back up with the rain, and I guess this graphic doesn't have the pause points in this folder. But let's go all the way to around 11 a.m. lunchtime. That's when the rain is going to be a lot more scattered across all of central Georgia, still predominantly of light rain nature. Some of those light green colors, maybe some embedded dark greens, a little bit of a yellow, but still just looking at a scattered shower that's really going to be pretty light in nature, maybe a little bit of a steady pocket of rain. So this is definitely looking like the rain chances have a lot better or less coverage, which is a better case scenario for you for any Thursday plans. Most of it tries to be down towards the south of us, but that center of low pressure is going to finally start moving off to the east and the northeast. It's going to be closer to areas like Charleston and on the Atlantic coast of South Carolina, North Carolina, where you do see some better clusters of rain, some yellows, some oranges, some reds up there. So by the time it continues to move out of our area on Thursday and it continues to get farther and farther away, we're getting a little bit farther away from the moisture content. And of course, this is going into the nighttime hours. This is 10 p.m. on Thursday. We go all the way into your Friday morning, which hopefully we can start out nice and dry and clear, give us a beautiful sunrise to welcome us out the door after a gloomy and a dreary Wednesday and Thursday. And for most of the first half of Friday, we actually are trending pretty dry. I'll actually drag this all the way out as far as it goes, and then we'll flash back. But just after lunchtime, you hear us talking about it so much this time of the year. The heat of the day, this diurnal heating is going to allow for those temperatures to warm if we have clear skies. We're still going to have some pretty muggy air that's present, and that's going to lead to kind of this sheet of popcorn that you do see all over Future View. It's going to virtually pop up out of nowhere because of the heat of the day, because of the moisture content that we continue to have, and then that will continue all throughout Friday afternoon into the evening hours. However, a good amount of sunshine will be present, so not looking like a complete washout by any means for your Friday evening plans. Just have the umbrella on standby go ahead and have that on standby starting today, and that will continue into your Thursday and Friday evening plans. So let's go all the way into the nighttime hours on Friday. You can see a lot more widespread rain, maybe even some storms trying to push down towards the south and the southeast by the time we go to midnight on Saturday, and we'll take it all the way out as far as future view does go. That line is really disorganizing and breaking apart as it moves through during that overnight window when temperatures are cooling. You don't have much daytime heating left. So 3 a.m. on Saturday, if anything does try to approach past sunset on Friday, it is expected to weaken in nature. However, you still can't rule out maybe seeing some overnight thunderstorms. Doesn't look to necessarily be anything of the severe criteria, but can't necessarily let our guard down because of this. Not this outlook specifically. I'm just showing you the day 1 and the day 2 outlooks to kind of show you that frontal boundary that we'll be interacting with once we get into the weekend. So it doesn't have any implications throughout Wednesday, Thursday, or most of Friday. But you can see that this long strip of green right here, that's going to be all these areas directly ahead of this frontal boundary. It is widespread, I guess, in terms of the length of this outlook risk. However, in terms of the width, just giving you an idea right there of how slow progress this boundary is going to make as it continues to try to push into the southeast. So areas like Michigan and areas like Detroit up to Cleveland, getting close to Columbus and Ohio on the northern extent of this outlook risk. And then on the southern extent, you do find it bordering areas like Austin and Houston down in Texas and everywhere in between. However, it doesn't move very far from west to east, so it's going to kind of slow down in terms of its speed before it does get here to central Georgia. And then another system kind of separate of this is going to be impacting areas like western Texas and getting into eastern New Mexico, closer to where Albuquerque is over there. Now the day 2 outlook, we can see that this front does change shape a little bit. You can see that northern extent of the line where you did find these areas up here around Cleveland, northern Ohio, southern Michigan. That area has moved more so all the way up to the north and the northeast. It actually goes throughout the entirety of Maine, if you can barely see it up there in the top right of your screen. So the northeasternmost tip of the United States. However, that southern component of the boundary does start to recede back up to the north a little bit. And that's going to impact all these areas in a level 2, like Lubbock, Oklahoma City, getting into southern Nebraska, southeastern Colorado by the time we get into Thursday. But this front is changing shape a little bit, so it's going to be more of a westerly to easterly component as opposed to maybe being slanted a little bit and having a slope across the U.S. Well, now we get into the day 3 storm outlook, and that is where we do find ourselves here in central Georgia in an outlook. And before we get into what areas could see what in terms of our severe weather potential, I want to go ahead and preface. We saw this 7 days in a row last week. Most days did not produce anything in the way of a severe weather warning whatsoever. So these outlooks aren't a guarantee that you're going to see a severe thunderstorm because you are in a highlighted risk. This does mean we have the potential, and level 1 is the lowest end of the scale, but we do see a level 2 just to the north of us. Something you can't let your guard down about, and just judging from what Future View did just say, it looks like most everything is going to be heated the day during Friday afternoon into the evening hours, which we don't give outlooks for that. That convective pop-up summertime shower or storm, those aren't included in any outlook risk whatsoever. You need some type of organization with the system in order to issue one of these severe weather outlooks. But it does look like maybe as we head into the nighttime hours on Friday, that cluster of showers and thunderstorms I was talking about moving in during a cooler portion of the day that tries to break apart, that's what this is probably covering the basis for. So it's looking not too likely, at least 3 days out right now, we could see anything in the way of a severe thunderstorm warning, but it's of course something we'll continue to monitor. And if anything is to pop up in the way of a warning, then we'll have you here covered about which areas are going to be impacted by a potential severe thunderstorm warning. But areas to the north have a greater chance of seeing that severe weather than we do as we go into the nighttime hours on Friday. And this may pop up past the midnight hour, but remember these severe weather outlooks, they go from 8 a.m. on the day that is stated up here in the top right corner all the way until 8 a.m. in the next day. So this outlook is valid until 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. That still falls within the window of those overnight hours, even though the clock in the calendar has turned over to Saturday. If it is just past midnight, maybe 1, 2 a.m. on Sunday or Saturday morning, that would still classify as this day 3 outlook, the Friday outlook. But that's something we'll worry about once we get there. The more immediate concern is trying to duck and dodge a few of those showers that are going to be present today. The breeze will be a little bit noticeable throughout today. A lot of that yellow color building in as we get these clusters of showers and storms moving in from the southeast. So an occasional gust up to 20-25 miles per hour isn't out of the realm of the possibility. This is 7 p.m. on Wednesday and going all the way into your Thursday, where it doesn't look like we have as many gusty winds. Not a lot of that blue shade or that yellow shade Thursday as compared to this afternoon. And then going all the way to Friday at 1 p.m. I believe that's the end of the graphic right there. Maybe a steady breeze about 5 to 10 miles per hour. So a little bit of a noticeable breeze today that will be blowing some humid air all around, but it will continue to blow humid air around for the foreseeable future. Because take a look at your humidity levels as we go into this afternoon. Still seeing some shades of light green, which isn't bad whatsoever, but predominantly it is going to be that dark green color because of the moisture that this low pressure center is going to continue to send us. We go all the way to 1 a.m. on Thursday, where we're still seeing a good mix of light green and dark green, but each day as we go into the afternoon hours, it starts to build in with more of the dark green color as opposed to the light green. We'll go all the way overnight into Friday, and then we continue to see that warm and muggy air staying its place right now. It is not moving, it is not going to budge for anyone over the course of the next 3 days, and that's going to kind of set up our messy pattern as we go into the beginning of your weekend. You will see maybe some slightly drier air trying to push in behind this frontal boundary. However, this frontal boundary isn't forecasted to make its way all the way through central Georgia. So if it does stall just to the north and the northwest of us, maybe northeast of us, regardless, it is looking to be to the north of us. And if it stalls and if it parks itself there, well, we're just going to kind of be locked in a sector of some warm and muggy air. We're on the southern end of that boundary, so that means we will still have plenty of rain chances, maybe even some severe weather chances going into your Saturday. Not much model agreement whatsoever about where the location of the rain is going to be the greatest, but it is going to be the greatest wherever that boundary does decide to stall. So that's what we're going to be looking out for as we move into the weekend. But nonetheless, it does look like we're going to just kind of be nestled in this warm and humid sector of air. That frontal boundary to the north is going to kind of trap it down here. It's not going to have any way to move out of the picture up to the north, over to the west, any of those areas. So it's just kind of continued rain chance each and every day. Saturday on into Sunday, that lingers overnight into early Monday morning. Monday during the afternoon hours, going to see the potential for, once again, pop-up rain in nature. That continues into Tuesday. And as far as the long-range model does go, is Wednesday at 4 p.m. where moisture in these the green and the blue shades are just hanging around in the picture. So another dreary stretch could be very well underway. We're going to have warm temperatures. We're going to have humid air. So more than likely, the timing of this is going to be afternoon to evening each and every day, just given the kind of pop-up nature of all this precipitation with the air that we do have present. And now we're kind of transitioning a little bit into a summertime pattern where we start to get pop-up rain chances each and every day. So that's what I would plan on if you're trying to plan anything out a couple days in advance. Afternoon and evening windows are going to be when it starts to get a little bit messy outside, and can't rule out some thunderstorms mixed in within that as well. So your 7-day forecast is not something that you would hang on your wall by any means, put it in a picture frame. 70% chance of a shower or storm today. That may even be a little bit greater just given recent model runs. It does look like most areas are going to receive something in the way of rain today, as opposed to not receiving anything in the way of rain like we were talking about yesterday. 30% and 40% for your Thursday and Friday. The chances are a little bit lower as that center of low pressure moves out of the picture. We're getting farther and farther away for where the really muggy air is and where all the rain is going to be around that center of circulation. So we can't even rule out a shower or even a thunderstorm. Future View didn't seem to think so. However, it's warm, it's muggy, it's going to leave that warm and muggy air in place. So not out of the realm of the possibility during this time of year. You will notice that the temperature is going to be warmer Thursday, Friday, Saturday, in fact, every day of your 7-day forecast besides today. So 82 degrees, I'm not even sure some areas will make it out of the 70s today. So enjoy the cooler temperatures, because what this is telling me right now, according to what all the models are saying and what I put together on the 7-day forecast, is if we see these warmer temperatures, that means we're going to be predominantly dry during the morning and early afternoon hours. That will allow us to reach these temperatures before it does start to pop up showers and some thunderstorms that will cool a lot of those temperatures down. But again, if we get cloud cover, if we get some rain a little bit earlier than that window where we typically hit the high temperatures, then of course you're not going to get anywhere near these numbers. You're going to be present in the upper 70s, maybe even the low 80s. But upper 80s, maybe even just above the 90-degree mark is what we have forecasted Friday all the way into next Tuesday. The rain chances are a lot better going Saturday all the way into Tuesday as opposed to what's going to be in store for Thursday and Friday. So I think Thursday and Friday are probably the better days for outdoor plans in terms of the likelihood of you not catching a shower as opposed to maybe running into a shower or a thunderstorm throughout the second half of your weekend. Not the most opportune timing, I do know. However, these are all very subject to change. These 60% that go from Saturday all the way into Tuesday, very much written in pencil because it's very vague right now in the long range models. We just continue to see these blobs popping up every which way. It could be over central Georgia, it could be over in Alabama. So once we're able to fine tune it and get a view on the short range models, we can really get a good percentage that we can put on the 7-day forecast and kind of stick with over a 3-day span. And then that will give you a better idea of the coverage of rain. But going to be warm, going to be muggy, and a chance of rain each and every day. That should tell you to keep the umbrella on standby. Just keep it in your passenger seat for the next week, maybe even some change. It did look like Wednesday was going to shape up to be a pretty wet one as well as we go into the end of your 7-day forecast. So we'll see where things do stand, but overall it is looking to be a pretty messy pattern. And of course, if things do get really messy outside, it's pretty loud in the way of thunder, the winds start to get pretty gusty, just make plans to go ahead and head inside, and hopefully the heaviest will be past you in about 5 to 10 minutes. And then you can just enjoy a nice summertime rain shower that will continue to hydrate your backyard garden. But don't bank on the rain chances giving your garden or any of your plants hydration each and every day. It's best to go ahead and give them a little bit of love and some water yourself. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that this is a great tool. With this rainy stretch that we have going on, you want to know where the rain is at a certain time of the day. Our live radar stream here on our Weather Impact 24/7 stream will be on loop. We'll be incorporating some of our forecasts. We'll be incorporating some of our breakouts on there to where you can get weather content on demand whenever you would like, 24/7, any time of the day. You want to wake up at 3 a.m. like myself and check out what's going on the radar, or you just want to wrap up from a long day at work. You want to know what the forecast is as you're heading into work for tomorrow. You can utilize this tool if we're not on air or during one of our evening shows into the nighttime shows. Definitely a great tool to utilize, and especially if you do hear things getting a little bit messy outside, trying to plan for the next couple of hours. What's that radar look like? Do we have more rain on the way after this, or are we good to go? Can we continue on with the pool party? So a great tool to utilize, this 24/7 stream that does have our live radar on it. Would definitely recommend doing that, because as much as we would like to, we can't be here 24/7 at all hours throughout the day, but we're working to put as much weather content out there for you that you can continue about any plans that you do have, your daily routine, and know what kind of weather is going to actually impact your daily routine. So thanks for tuning in. This is Wednesday's edition of your extended forecast. Like clockwork, we're back here at 10:30 sharp tomorrow, so thank you for tuning in today.